G'day guys, welcome back to the Rugby League Guru podcast. We obviously saw the announcement the other day with one of the most outrageous pictures I have ever seen on the front of the telly that the new co-captains of the St George Illawarra Dragons, of course, Damien Cook and Clint Gutherson. Personally, I absolutely love this call. If you want to have a little giggle, go and jump onto Lukey Stowe's Instagram and watch a video he put up about how the fuck they butchered that picture. A real good laugh, a great meme for the off-season there. But two guys that I think are perfect for the role there at the Dragons. I think it is a new era. I think that Shane Flanagan over the last few years has sort of come on board. He's had to work with the franchise with the roster he's been given. Now he's starting to work with the roster that he is building, and I really like the direction the Dragons are going in. I like everyone else had them tipped for a really poor performance last year. They only just missed the 8 realistically. I think they were like 10th or something. It was a pretty good year by the Dragons, and there was periods of time where I sort of went, fuck, why can't they play finals footy? I understand they've lost Ben Hunt, they've lost Zach Lomax, which hurts 100%. But I think a changing of the guard and moving away from a Ben Hunt centralised brand of footy, I think it'll be good for him. And I think Gutho coming in, he's a hard worker. He's obviously, I've heard from people at the Dragons already, he's setting a great example there at training. I think he's a very good choice for captaincy, and I think he will fit in perfectly with Shane Flanagan. The one thing that I probably have against Gutho at times is that when something goes against him or whatever, he can throw the hands up very quickly and there can be a bit of carry on there. But mate, that's Shane Flanagan 101. I actually think they're going to fit fucking perfectly together. I think they're going to be frustrating at times. The Dragons always are. But I think Gutho's the perfect guy to lead this side. Pair that up with Damien Cook, who obviously, one of those guys that I love because his career didn't start with him being a superstar. His career didn't start as an 18-year-old touted for all these big things. He bounced around a few clubs. He was playing on the wing at one stage, moved into the hooker role, made his way through Canterbury, ended up at South Sydney, and then within 2 or 3 years was the Australian hooker. A really incredible rise, and I think there's a lot of negative press around rugby league and players in rugby league at times. Like Damien Cook to me has just always been the perfect bloke in rugby league. There's all these jokes about, the sand sprinter and all this stuff. He leans into that stuff. He's never in trouble. Good leader, always very, respectful on the field, off the field. He just ticks all the boxes for me, Damien Cook. And you've seen, the transition of his career as well, that a couple of years ago he was the running 9 and that was all anyone sort of knew him for. And people still call him that. I don't think he is anymore personally. He hasn't been a running 9 for a couple of years. I think he's really rounded his game out. And I thought for South Sydney last year, like I've heard a lot of South fans saying, fuck, they're really going to miss him out of hooker. I thought he played his best footy when he was playing sort of in a lock position for the South Sydney Rabbitohs. And I think he'll play that role for the Dragons as well. So two guys that are excellent choices for captaincy roles at the Dragons. And it got me thinking, are there any other clubs in the league that might have to make a decision like this during the offseason? There are a few. You've obviously got over at the New Zealand Warriors. Tohu Harris obviously retired the other day. We spoke about that. Sean Johnson has retired and Adam Fanua-Blake has left. So there is a big leadership hole there at the New Zealand Warriors. They're going to have a decision to make. For me personally, I said it a few weeks ago, and even if Tohu Harris was still playing, I would have made him a co-captain with James Fisher-Harris. I think if you're lucky enough to be able to sign a guy like James Fisher-Harris, the moment he walks through the door, you slap a C on his forehead. I just think it makes complete sense. They've got a lot of young forwards with a lot of young talent there. I want Fish to be leading them, and I think he would be my captain. The only other person I would throw into the mix there, obviously like a guy like Wade Egan you could mention. There's a few other guys, but Roger Tuivasa-Sheck for me. I personally will get to, at the moment, I'm going in the Roo Crew, going through all of my predicted 17s for each side that I would, best 17s that I would pick. And I personally next year with the halves that they're going to be lacking and trying to work that out, I would have Roger Tuivasa-Sheck at fullback for me. I know he's getting older and everything and he's played centre. There's rumours of him playing wing. I would just chuck him at fullback. I'd probably put Chance in the centre spot because I think defensively he can do a job there. So Roger, if he's playing fullback, I'd be more than happy to have him as a co-captain. But I think at absolute minimum, the New Zealand Warriors have to make a decision of having James Fisher-Harris as their club captain. And I just think it makes sense. He's currently the New Zealand captain. I just think the optics around the Warriors captain being the New Zealand captain. I absolutely love that. It's been a while since we've had that realistically, but I think it is perfect for them, and I think they will make that decision. So the New Zealand Warriors are one of those clubs. Another one that I think is interesting, obviously the West Tigers. Api Kurosawa, he has been the captain the last 2 years, as he should be. I love that decision that the Tigers made, and I would still keep Api as a co-captain of this side, but I would pair him up with Jerome Luai. Arriving at this club, he's won multiple premierships over the last few years. I think, like, you've obviously signed Jerome Luai because of his playing ability and whatnot, but I think the Tigers have also identified Luai because of his attitude. The guy is a born winner. He doesn't do anything other than fucking win, and he's one of those. What I love about Luai, and I know a lot of you have issues with him or have in the previous years, I just love that he wears his heart on his sleeve. I absolutely love that. I've said for a number of years, you all tell me he's cocky, he's arrogant. When they lost the 2020 grand final, he was the first one that got behind a mic and said, "This fucking sucks. We're going to be back bigger, better." Since then, they won 4 comps in a row. The Jerome Luai was a key cog in. I just think the guy just personifies what the Tigers are trying to become and what they're trying to be. And, you go back to that, when the Tigers were successful in previous years, like you go back to 2005, they were the flamboyant Tigers who they had to be a little bit arrogant to do what they were doing. You go to like those 2010 sides, Benji at his absolute peak, Robbie Farah, they had that little bit of arrogance to them. And I'm okay with that. And I think Jerome Luai is going to be a really good fit, and I think that he's going to be the guy that's going to lead the way out of this. I think Api's going to be a key role in it, 100%. But I think if the Tigers are to get off the bottom of the ladder and start to compete, for top 8 berths and even further, Jerome Luai is going to have to be the main guy. And personally, I would just give him the captaincy on arrival. I would pair him up with Api, have them as co-captains, and I think that'd be perfect. And I'm pretty confident Benji will make that decision. We'll see how that one does play out, but I think that's what they'll do. I think that'll be a really good fit. Another team is the Cronulla Sharks. They've got Cam McInnes as their sole captain at the moment. Obviously, he was paired up with Dale Finucane a couple of years ago. Cam McInnes obviously plays big minutes. He's not out there all the time, though. And look, you don't need a captain that's going to be out there for 80 minutes, but I sort of like to have a clear route of who's going to be the guy talking to the ref when McInnes isn't on, for example. And you know what? I was having a look at this Cronulla Sharks side, and I think the obvious one for people is Nicho Hynes, and I get that. To be honest with you, after the season Nicho had last year, I sort of just want him to concentrate on what he's doing in his job and working out that combination with him and Trindle. The guy that I actually think could be a really good fit, and I might be a little bit left field, but I'd like to see Blake Brayley in the role. I think he'd do really well. I think defensively, he's a big communicator through the middle. He's got his hands on the ball more than anyone. He's in the middle. He's got a really good understanding for the tempo of the game, Blake Brayley. I think he'd be a good choice. As on top of that, he's a Cronulla Sharks junior. He's come through the grades there all the way. He's a fan favourite. He plays every single game. I think I had some stats that I posted last year. Blake Brayley, he's missed like a handful of games over the last few years. If you have a look, in 2024, he played 27 games. In 2023, he played 25. In 2022, he played 26 games. So over the and then if you go even further than that, in the last 5 seasons, Blake Brayley has missed 1 game of NRL. That is simply incredible. When you look at the position he plays, and he doesn't hide away from work at all. I met him about 3 months ago, and honestly, I couldn't believe how small he was. He is an absolute Iron Man. He just personifies what the Sharkies are going to need to be if they're going to win a premiership in the next 2 years or so. So I know the obvious choice is probably a Nicho Hynes, but honestly, I'd be really happy to see Blake Brayley again. I think he'd be a really good fit. He's always going to be on the field. He's always going to be available. I think he'd be a really nice selection for the Sharkies, a local junior as well. I think it'd be unreal. The last one, and I don't know if this is controversial or not. I don't know. The Parramatta Eels. So in recent years, they've had 2 co-captains. They have had Clint Gutherson and Junior Bolo. For me, and I think for all of us, when we look at that side, and I think even the guys internally at Parramatta, I think they've looked at Gutho as their captain for a long time. I think Junior is a leader at the club. There's no doubt about that. I don't think he's as vocal as Gutho. He wasn't a guy that was, talking to referees as much as Gutho was. And I think that you saw them after they score points or whatever, and they're in their huddle, or, the main voice you can hear on the field, it was always Gutho. I think Gutho is a very good captain. I'm happy for him to get captaincy on arrival at the Dragons. I look at the the Parramatta Eels, though, and I know Junior's co-captain, and, there's, the obvious choice. Okay, well, do you just make him the sole captain? I get that. For me personally, and I don't know Junior personally, but what I know of him and his character from people in the league, and like Kempy's done a lot of work with him in photo shoots and everything, I think he'd be okay with this personally. For me, Mitch Moses is my captain. I would make him the outright captain right now. Hearing that he is absolutely flying in preseason. He just won the State of Origin Shield with the New South Wales Blues. I don't know if we win it without him realistically. He then went and played for the Kangaroos. Wasn't great in the final, to be fair. Won that. I just think when this Parramatta side, I think you saw it last year, when he's not on the field, not only do they get worse, they don't know what to fucking do. They are completely lost without this guy and his voice out there on the field. And I think Mitch Moses is coming into a special year or two, probably 2 or 3 years to be fair. 30 years of age this year. I would make him the captain. Even looking at some of the content coming out from the Parramatta Eels, like they uploaded a reel of him yesterday, and just, I don't know, just his demeanour at the moment and the way he's carrying himself. He looks like a guy to me that, and you know what, I always think, even when he was young, Mitch Moses, he was the gun coming through the grades. He was sensational. I think Mitch Moses has always known how good he is, but I think he's now realised just how much of an impact he can have on the game. Got to experience the grand final a couple of years ago, got a little taste of it. I've always had question marks, well, not always, but probably up until about 2 years ago when he played Origin, if he was going to be able to handle those big stages. Now I look at Mitch Moses and I just think he's absolutely fucking made for them. And I think if I was a Parramatta Eels, if I'm looking to end this premiership drought, I think my best chance is by going all in on Mitch Moses. I think he's one of the best players in the competition at the moment. I'd probably have him in my top 10 players in the NRL. I'm not sure if others would, but I definitely would. I just absolutely love the guy. And I think that, if Junior's not a captain, or, you could have Junior as a co-captain. He did it with Gutho and that was all sweet. You could do the same thing. But Mitch Moses, I would make it very clear, if I'm Jason Ryles coming into this team, he is the guy. He is our guy. He is our leader. I think he is their best shot at winning a premiership heading into the future. So for Parramatta, I would have Mitch Moses as my captain. Happy to have Junior as a co-captain if you want. But Moses, he 100% has to be a captain of this side now. For me at the Sharkies, Cam McInnes, happy to have him as the C still. I don't think he should lose that by any means. I think he holds on to it. But I'd also be more than happy to see Blake Brayley step into that role. I think he'd do really well. At the Dragons, we said Cook and Gutho. They would have been my choices. I think it's I don't think you want to have more than two, but I think two is a pretty sweet spot, especially when you got sort of one in the backs, one in the forwards. I like that. The other one as well that I want to talk about, that I skipped over, is the Dolphins. Jesse Bromwich obviously retired. He was the inaugural captain. I'm not exactly sure what they're going to do here. I tend to think they'll go Tom Gilbert. I reckon there is a very good chance he will be the captain of this side. You've obviously got Felice Kaufusi. You've got Kenny Bromwich. You got a few options there. I know Mark Nichols is held in very, very high respect up there as well. For me, though, I just think Tom Gilbert, and you know what, if they went Felice for a year or two, for the back end of his career, I could 100% get that, and you wouldn't really get any pushback from me. But I just look at Tom Gilbert at the age he's at. I would assume Tom Gilbert, 26, 27, something along those lines, I would say. I know he hasn't played a lot of footy of late via injury and everything, but I know that he is looked at as a serious leader up there. He's only 24 years old, Tom Gilbert. I just look at him, and maybe you go Felice and Tom Gilbert as co-captains, with a look at Tom Gilbert being the captain into the future. I know that I've had people message me, what about Max Plath? I think just let Plath just play his game and just develop as a first grader, whereas Tom Gilbert, he's already an Origin player. He's already well and truly established. He is younger than I thought he was, to be fair, but I do think him as a co-captain, I think he'd be a really good choice alongside Felice Kaufusi. Obviously, Felice coming to the back end of his career. This might be his swan song season, maybe an extra year after that. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I think Felice is obviously getting on. I think he's moved into the front row just about full time now. I don't think you'll see him on the edge anymore. 32 years of age, Felice Kaufusi coming to the back end of his career. He's a leader up there for sure, especially defensively. He's been enormous over the last couple of seasons. I would probably go Felice Kaufusi and Tom Gilbert. Tom Gilbert with an eye on taking that over into the future. And you might even find that, by the time Felice does hang up the boots, maybe Isaiah's going to be ready to step into a role like that as well. He's going to be the guy they're going to build the club around. So they've got plenty of options up there at the Dolphins. I wouldn't rule out Mark Nichols either. He's probably a guy that I think people that are on the outside probably don't realize how important he is to that squad and how much they absolutely fucking adore him up there. So he's another one that's going to be there and thereabouts. So Dolphins, Tigers, I would bring Jerome Luai in straight away. For the Warriors, I'm bringing James Harris in. I'm slapping the C on his shoulder straight away, and I'd consider a play with Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, depending on what position he's playing. If he's playing centre or wing, I'd probably be a little bit more hesitant. But personally, I'd have him at fullback. I think that's where they need him for season 2025. Let me know, guys, if there's any teams I missed or anyone you want to add in there, or any, from your particular team, you think I'm sleeping on someone, or you think someone could get elevated to a co-captaincy or something like that. Let me know in the comments. Reach out to me. Send me a DM. And if you want to check out those best 17s that I am picking, they are in the Roo Crew at the moment. You can hit the link down here in the description to go and check it out.